It is screaming wind outside, and every once in a while I hear emergency vehicles or fire trucks, so I hope that everybody's okay out there. Vegas doesn't usually get very windy, but tonight seems to be the exception to the rule. It is also very cold outside because it's really hot in the summer, but very cold in the winter in Vegas because it's a desert. So this is a perfect time to use the actual oven behind me. Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nakatomi Test Kitchen. We are going to make some amazing cookies that are super easy to make, doesn't require a mixer, and makes these amazing little heart-shaped cookies that you can use for Valentine's Day or just like a romantic gift to give to your partner, or I don't know, a friend that you have romantic feelings for, or just somebody who likes hearts. You know, because cookies are cookies, and cookies are always yummy. I have tried a few different recipes for this, and I ended up really enjoying the goddess herself, the Barefoot Contessa, Garten's recipe for Palmiers. And she actually mentioned something that I hadn't seen in any of the other recipes out there, which is to add a little bit of salt to the sugar that you use, which makes complete sense because salt opens up your taste buds and allows you to taste that sugar, and so it doesn't taste completely sugary, completely just nothing but sweetness. And it's very similar to like why salted caramel is so popular. So I'm gonna make those cookies, and then we're going to do a little bit of a glow up, I guess. We're gonna decorate the Palmiers just a little bit. We're going to start with 2 cups of, she used regular white granulated sugar, but I'm going to use cane sugar. The nice thing about this is because you're going to be using a pre-made pastry, you won't have to measure, weigh things, worry too much about weights and measures in general tend to be like the thing that messes up people a lot when it comes to baking, so you don't have to worry about any of that. This is a super easy recipe to make. So 2 cups of sugar. To that we add, Madame Garten called for 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, so I'm just going to add, and she did the same thing, a pretty generous pinch of salt. I'm gonna stir that all together. Just want to make sure that we don't get like, you know, one cookie that has a saltier flavor than the rest. I set that aside. Make some space. This is our favorite pre-made dough. As you know, I've used this before for I think the Tuna and Tomato Tart recipe, for something that's savory, but this is puff pastry. I had to think about it. Am I making pie crust or puff pastry? And today it's actually puff pastry. So you want to let this thaw, because you buy this frozen, you keep it in the freezer. You're going to want to let this thaw in the fridge so that it stays super cold. And you're going to roll this out. And then, once you have that out, you're going to take half of your sugar and salt mixture, move this out of the way, and just put this all over your counter. I think 2 cups of sugar might be a little too much, but for this recipe, you almost want to have enough to kind of toss later. Take your puff pastry and gently rest it on top of sugar. and you just want to press it so you get sugar all over. You can even use a rolling pin. Not necessary if your hands are cold. You know, you want to make sure that you're not touching the puff pastry too much, because your hands will melt the butter that's between all the flaky layers. Okay. Then you take the other scoop. This is what I mean about it. It might be a little too much, but you're gonna pour this kind of sugar and salt mixture on top. Press it and make sure that you get it into all the pieces, all the corners, I guess. Kind of gently pushing with my hands because I, again, don't want to melt the dough. And then you're going to fold it in half. Well, a quarter. You want to fold it to the center, and you're going to fold the bottom half to the center. And then you're going to fold it on itself. Which means you're going to have all this like sugar on the inside, and you've got sugar on the outside. I'm going to pour some of the inside stuff out because it seems like a lot. And then, now you have the sugary mess. This is like a fun recipe to make, probably with kids, because it's one of those recipes where it's kind of okay that things are a little bit messy. So, and then you're going to take a knife and you are going to, I'll make sure I don't get sugar all over the floor. Even though it's messy, you know, you want to keep your mind on like the cleanup later. So take your knife and then you are going to cut about 1-inch pieces. And then I think with puff pastry, the end pieces always end up being a little on the dry side. So I tend to either toss them or make them and then eat them and not use them for like gifts. So I'm going to put these to the side. But you see how they become, let me show you like one in the middle. How they become like these little heart shapes. And because it's puff pastry, once you put it in the oven, the butter steams up and puffs up the dough parts, and almost like a croissant, right? And the whole thing becomes this like big kind of puffy cookie that's like flaky and yummy and sweet and sugary and a little bit of salt. So these can go into a Ziploc bag. And you can freeze them until you're ready to bake them. Because the trick to these, like most puff pastry recipes, is you want to make sure that that butter is super cold before you pop it in the oven, because you want that steam action, that kind of nerdy science experiment part of cooking that is so much fun. But look, this is literally how you make the cookie. That's all you have to do. So those of you who are like, I'm not a baker, this recipe is probably for you. Okay, so I'm gonna pop these in the freezer for about half an hour or so. And then when I come back, I will put these, well, not all of these, but some of these into the oven, and we'll see what it looks like. And in the meantime, I'm going to clean this up I'm gonna clean all this up and make a couple of like additional little dippy decorative chocolate things for these cookies. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. We've put those Palmiers, pie cookies, however you want to call them, heart-shaped cookies, because they're gonna look like little hearts, in the freezer, just so I can get the butter to cool down after being kind of man-handled or woman-handled on the counter. And we're gonna pull them right out of the freezer, put them on a baking sheet, and then pop it in an oven. So let me go grab those. The nice thing about putting these and making these ahead and sticking in the freezer is you can make as many as you want. So in my case, I'm only going to make a few, and that's why I have the small baking sheet. And they do puff up. They look kind of, you know, like something squished up. But because the butter has had a chance to refreeze, they have gotten really cold, and so when they heat up, they're going to create a bunch of steam, and then it's gonna make those layers that you see like croissants, but not quite like a croissant because it's a cookie. So I'm only making 3 and putting the rest back in the freezer for another day. So just like that, they're gonna go into a 450-degree oven that's already been preheated, and they're going to cook for 5 minutes on each side. So Ina Garten's recipe says 4 minutes on each side, but she actually has a commercial kitchen that's a lot stronger than what I've got at home. So when I tried making these, it took an extra minute on each side. So I say 5 minutes on each side. Let me pop those in there, I'll be right back. So while that's cooking, or while that's baking, I'm gonna make a quick drizzle. So these cookies are pretty sweet on their own because it's really just dough and sugar. But if you wanna make it a little bit fancier, you can get some of these. So you don't need to buy them from Ghirardelli. These are just the ones I happen to find at Target. But they are melting wafers, or you can call, I think they're also called like candy melts, if you look for them online or at your local store. But they basically look like chips. And that's white vanilla flavored, and this is dark chocolate. And I'm making more of the white because I'm gonna actually split those up and add like a little bit of pink food coloring. These go into the microwave one at a time. 30 seconds the first time, then stir it with a spoon, and then if it's not quite completely melted, then put it in for another 15 seconds and then another 10 seconds. Like, keep making those increments shorter because you don't wanna cook these completely. All you wanna do is just melt them. Now, if you're a professional cook or professional chef, you would just have regular chocolate and then you would temper them. But these melting wafers or candy melts are actually kind of already prepared with additional ingredients that make these nice and luscious and shiny when you actually use them in candy making. And so they're a great time saver if you're a home cook. So let me go pop these in the microwave. Get these melted, and then I will get these cookies out and we'll do a little bit of decorating. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna go ahead and grab those Palmiers out of the oven, and while they're cooling, we're gonna finish up making these little drizzles. You'll notice that I've put them in the oven, in the microwave for 30 seconds, and then 15 seconds, and then 10 seconds, and then 5 seconds, until these candy melts, these melting wafers have gotten super soft and luscious. So let me grab those cookies. And here we have these cookies that look like hearts, and they're made with puff pastry, so they've puffed up and they look like little pies. I am going to take them off of the baking sheet so that they have a chance to cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this and pour it into another bowl. Now these cookies are super sweet. They're great with like a cup of coffee or a cup of tea with like no sugar in it, maybe just a little cream. I'm going to add a little bit of pink food coloring. For those of you who want to do this for like Valentine's Day, I think it might be fun. Mix that up. Now these candy melts, if you leave them out, they do harden again into one big block. So if that happens, then just pop them right back in the microwave for like another, you know, another sequence of like, start with like 15 seconds and then like 10 seconds. And then they will melt right back up. Okay, so we've got these cookies here. If you want, you can have them just by themselves, but if you want to dress them up just a little bit, you can just always just put a drizzle of the chocolate, drizzle of the white chocolate. And I really wouldn't do it like much more than a drizzle because the cookie is already so sweet. And then you can always do a little bit of pink on top if it will cooperate. And then you can do another that's just the white. And then I can always put plastic wrap on these and put them in the fridge, and I can always just reheat them up whenever I need it, or I can, you know, get rid of it if I don't really want to have that kind of temptation sitting around. Because I do have half of those bags of those chocolate candy melts still left. So I have my little cup of tea and my coffee cup that's pierced. You've seen me have the bowl version of this when I did the Colombian ceviche, but there is actually a coffee mug that goes with this. And I'm gonna have a white one. It's so flaky, but because there's so much sugar on the inside and the outside, it's kind of holding the whole thing together, so you don't get a lot of crumbs. If you wanted to make like a lighter version, I think maybe you can just put the sugar on just one side, because when you fold them, you know, the folds get sugar on each layer anyway. But I followed Madame Garten's recipe, and I also think that her versions are a little bit larger because she probably gets her puff pastries from like a gourmet purveyor, whatever, and I got mine from Target. So, but they taste just as good. Super tasty. Goes amazing with that cup of tea. That drizzle really doesn't add too much of an extra sweetness, but yeah, it's a great little snack. When these have cooled completely, because these are still a little warm, once they have cooled completely, the sugar on the outside solidifies, so you can actually put them in like a paper bag and take them with you to work or to school or however, wherever you want to grab these as a snack. So And one of those is enough for me for tonight because I don't really need to be up all night on a sugar rush. You can always pack these up and give them to your friends. Again, welcome to another episode, and I hope you enjoyed the newest episode of Nakatomi Test Kitchen. I will see you next time.